What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome on into a live edition of the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here running through some NFL news I think has a big impact on the Broncos. And then we're going to look at some, free agency chatter. I felt like that was like a year ago, but it wasn't even a month ago right now. But there are some notable wide receivers that the Broncos could have some interest in, so we'll look into both those players. But as always, I do want to let the audience build up for the first 3 to 5 minutes. I know not everyone is punctual. Plus, me and producer Moose went live 30 minutes early today. Truth be told, we kind of just flew through our work today a little bit, and I didn't think that you guys would want to wait an extra 30 minutes, so why not get to the fun stuff as quickly as possible? So we're going to have a fun show for everyone today. Shout out your city for me in the chat, though. Let me know where you are tuning in from. It is always fun to see how far and wide, as I like to say, Broncos country stretches. So where do we got everyone watching from? Victory lap, 20 push-ups for PD being late. I am 30. What the fuck? I can't win sometimes. 1, we're 30 minutes early. 2, we started on our new time right at 3:30. Yeah. Michael's in Pueblo, Colorado. Aiden's in Fort Collins. Danny is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Danny, I'm going to be in your swamp-ish. Next weekend is my bachelor party in New Orleans. Super pumped for that. So I'll be down in the Big Easy. Ryan is in Northern Illinois. We were just talking about that. Mister is in Denver. Casey is in Tacoma, Washington. Dave is in Gillette, Wyoming. Great Buffalo Wild Wings in Gillette, Wyoming. I was in a Buffalo Wild Wings in Gillette, Wyoming when I learned one of two things. 1, I got in a second interview with Chat Sports. 2, my, at the time, girlfriend bought a dog. So, yeah, I was on a business trip, which you don't think business trip for Gillette, but I was covering high school soccer. I worked in Wyoming, and then I had a Wyoming high school all-star soccer game in Gillette. And I love B-dubs, and there was not a B-dubs in my tiny town of Wyoming. So I went there, and I saw my email from Chat Sports for another interview, and I learned that I now have a dog. So memorable time in Gillette. Tennessee from Broncos country. Dallas, Texas from Zach. Sixto is in California. Warren also in California. Asia is in Brooklyn, New York. Mr. Way to be punctual. There we go, Mr. Appreciate it. So we have a good show laid out for everyone today. We're going to run through some of the rule changes you might have already seen, do a little bit of a breakdown on each rule change and how it impacts the Broncos. And then we're going to talk about some of the free agency buzz because 2 notable receivers were, I wouldn't say like linked to Denver, but were in the same breath as the Broncos in a conversation. And I want to unpack both those players as potential free agent targets since Denver has not really signed a receiver. They added Trent Sherfield. I view him more as a special teams caliber signing. So there's still some room in that department to grow. And at the end of the show, we have a mailbag. Hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, you skip the line. We guarantee your question gets on screen. Hashtag Broncos and producer Moose just picks his favorite question. So might pick yours. He might not. I'm not really sure. 87 people tuned in. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know that this is a weird time in the NFL calendar because it's still busy. Like it's kind of balls to the wall for free agency and the draft. But at the same time, we're in no man's land where like free agency does not have the same firepower it had 2 weeks ago. The draft is not far away, but it's still 3+ weeks away. So not everyone is completely, diving into draft content just yet. So shout out to you guys for hanging out with us in this kind of weird in-between spot between free agency and the draft. If you have any questions related to the draft, free agency, trades, anything at all, just use hashtag Broncos in the chat or Super Chat, and we guarantee then your question or your take gets on screen. Now we're 6 away. There we go. Chipping away, baby. Click that thumbs up button down below if you have not already. Once we get to 25 likes, we're going to start our first segment for our live show today, which is all about the NFL rule changes and how one specific Bronco is a major beneficiary from this rule change, and I'm excited to share that with you guys on today's live. So, we've got the Lord of Liberty. I would take Tyreek for a fourth. Very bold of you, Lord of Liberty, to offer a fourth rounder for a future Hall of Tyreek Hill. He's a future Hall of Famer. Yeah, Tyreek Hill's a future Hall of Famer. Okay. I said that, and then I was like, did I get ahead of myself? I'm like, no, Tyreek Hill. The tough thing is, with the increase in passing the last 15 years, there will be a lot of quarterbacks and receivers who have stats of Hall of Fame players, but we can't put everyone. Like Matt Schaub led the NFL in passing. He probably has more career passing yards than a lot of NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but he doesn't get to go. So I just don't want to find myself in that sticky spot where you start comparing this player to a Hall of Famer from the 70s. It's like, how do you leave him out? It's like, well, he wasn't even top 10 during his own decade. I think are you muted? Oh, okay. You're moving the wrong pod. There you go.
I did not know that was the case.
Yeah.
Look at that. Now I'm back in it. Skip Baylessism. You can't be in the Hall of Very Good. You have to be in the Hall of Fame, right? The best of the best. Not like that's why Julian Edelman, in my opinion, won't get in. He was really good.
Counter argument: can you tell the story of football without Julian Edelman?
No, listen, you raised some good points.
I know that one's always thrown out there. And it's kind of a funny one because you also can't tell the story of football without Dan Skipper. Remember him, the Patriots left tackle who returned the kick all the way? Like, that's got to be in the story of football. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think so. 37 likes. Let's not waste any more of your time with me and Moose debating fringe Hall of Famers, and let's talk about some real hard-hitting NFL news, baby, from the owners' meeting. Man, Marvin Mims just got some fantastic news today because the NFL owners meeting brought on a couple of rule changes, and one of those rule changes is just what Mims wanted to hear. So, teams now, amongst 5 different rule changes that were brought out there, are permitted to speak to players during the legal tampering period. That's not the rule change I'm talking about for Marvin Mims. It's this next rule change that I want to discuss, which is kickoffs that are ruled a touchback, whether that goes out the back of the end zone or the player takes a knee in the end zone. That ball will be placed on the 35-yard line. So start to think a few steps down the line now. If the ball, which previously last year went out to the 30 from a touchback, now goes to the 35, that is going to incentivize teams to kick it short of the end zone, thus creating more kick returns, which is what the league wants. And kick returners are not grinning. They are wagging their tail at this because 2-time Pro Bowler Marvin Mims is going to get more opportunities now to return kicks for touchdowns, which he's already done once in his very young NFL career. So any team with an awesome return man that has unfortunately just been stuck on the sideline in a box in a corner because the ball just gets kicked out the back of the end zone and they never get to use this weapon, they are enthusiastically celebrating this rule change because we're going to see more returns from Mims. That's going to bring on just more entertainment for starters, but also I think just better starting field position for the Broncos as well because Mims last year had a bunch of great returns, whether it was kick or punt returns at times, but specifically kick returns. Now, on the flip side, Denver also has to counter in how does this impact their kickoffs? Because what I looked at was this really informative heat map, which shows the 16 AFC teams and where the kickoffs went when they were kicking. And you can see the Broncos, bottom right-ish, are towards the back of the pack. So the Texans, amongst all AFC teams, led the conference in kickoffs that did not reach the end zone. They were baiting and testing teams to return kicks more than, say, the Colts. We look at their heat map, the Colts just blasted the ball out the back of the end zone and just gave the opposing team 1st and 10 at the 30-yard line. The Broncos were closer to the Colts than the Texans. So I expect Darren Rizzi to adjust the way Denver operates on kickoffs now because I don't think they want to give the ball to the other team at the 35. I think they want the other team to earn the 35, right? They want to put their 11 guys on kickoff out there and say, get to the 36. We challenge you to outdo us. Because previously, last year, when the ball was kicked in the field of play, in the landing zone, the 20 to the 0, the average kick return did not get past the 35-yard line. So this is, I think, a great win for all special teams players and coordinators because it brings more value to kick returns. And that part of the game was starting to die off. And as a result, return specialists and special teams coordinators, they didn't really have a lot of opportunities to flex their muscles. Now, Marvin Mims will have almost, I would say, endless because you don't want the other team kicking off too many times, but he's going to have more opportunities than before to flex his muscles and showcase his return abilities because teams are not just going to boot it out the back of the end zone. They're going to try and see if Mims can get past the 35, which he won't every time. He may not do it majority of the time, but he has shown an ability to really flip the field position over and get Bo Nix excellent starting 1st and 10 position. So, looking over some of the kick return stats from 2024, the first year of that brand new kickoff rule change, 11% increase from 2023 to 2024 in kick return rate, going all the way up to 32.8%. There were 59 returns of 40-plus yards. If that 59, or let's just say if the kickoff return rate increases from 33 to, let's do 40%, right? It went up 11% last time. Let's say it goes up 7% this time. If it goes up 7%, give or take, that 59 is going to go up probably to closer to 70-ish, right? And I think Marvin Mims is going to have a huge piece of that 70 return pie of 40-plus yards. So sign me up for more great field position for Bo Nix and company on 1st and 10. If you are excited, though, for a Marvin Mims breakout season, which we started to get shades of that towards the end of 2024, and now going into 2025, I think he is ready to really take on a larger role, not just as a wide receiver, but, of course, in special teams, then make sure you drop a 19 down below in the comment section. Now, some other rule changes were passed today, and I want to go through those rule changes because obviously they impact all 32 teams. Everyone plays on the same field with the same officials, but I think some of these rule changes impact some teams more than other teams, like the kickoff rules. So, the next one was both teams will possess the ball in overtime. This is an example of I don't think this has a big benefit for Denver over the Chiefs or anything like that. I tried to do some research on coin flipping stats. How good was Denver at calling heads or tails? And if they were really good at it, then they probably don't want it to change because, previously they were getting the ball and then they were not giving the other team an opportunity to score. But that was just a rabbit hole I was not going to go down. And also Denver hasn't played a lot of overtime games the last 3-4 years. So there's that. I think from a football standpoint, it's a good rule. It'd be nice to see both offenses take the field in overtime. Now, before we look at the other rule changes, and wink, wink, the Chiefs are going to be implicated in one of these rule changes, make sure you subscribe because we are racing our Chiefs Report channel here at Chat Sports in subscribers leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft. So we got a nice 0-0 start for both teams. We're at the starting gates. It's post time. Let's take down the Chiefs Report in subscribers this month. This next rule, I don't think Kansas City will be too fond of. And this is the hater coming out of me. But replay assist will now be permitted. This and the kickoff rule change were probably the two most highlighted changes that came out of all these rule switcheroos. So let's break down what it actually means. So this year, replay assist will be allowed to chime in and reverse flags for the following 5 and only 5 penalties: defenseless players, face masks, horse collars, tripping, and running into / roughing the kicker. So if you feel like the Chiefs have always gotten the benefit of the doubt, they've gotten the hometown whistle at times, this is a rule change that maybe they're not going to love. They're going to say that they like it, but you and I know the Chiefs always seem to get the benefit of the doubt from the officiating. I'm not going to go as far to say that this is going to drastically change things for Kansas City because If you notice, it did not include roughing the passer. And that's the rule that everyone's upset that the Chiefs always get the call from Mahomes for. That's not changing. The referee god cannot chime down with a bolt of lightning and say that is not roughing the passer on Patrick Mahomes. Pick up that penalty. No. In fact, the referee god can't even come down and throw a flag if he wanted to. The replay assist can only chime in when a penalty was thrown. So if you all remember last year on Thursday night when the Vikings played the Rams and the Rams defensive end, Byron Young, got a handful of Sam Darnold's face mask and everyone's like, face mask, but they missed it. Yeah, even with this new rule change, replay assist can't come in and throw a penalty. They can only pick up a penalty if one should not have been called. But they can't actually bring out a penalty that was not called initially. So hopefully this is just like the start of eventually they will be able to throw penalties for Sam Darnold examples, and they will include roughing the passer because sometimes it's just BS, the calls that Mahomes and other quarterbacks get. Before we check out the last rule change brought on today, make sure you hang out with us here for the NFL Draft, as we are going to have great free live coverage, and you can wear a Broncos draft hat, the 2025 Denver Broncos draft hat, which with I think the Rocky Mountain emblem is like top 5. So go to chatsports.com/DEN hat. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to get some more Broncos gear in your closet for the draft, chatsports.com/DEN. Oh, DEN draft, excuse me. DEN draft, my mistake. Fifth and final rule change, Hawkeye technology implemented for ball spotting. This was something that was talked about a few months ago, and the NFL has finally decided, more than a few months ago, I think it was first brought up a year ago, but the Sony Hawkeye technology, which you're probably most familiar with when watching tennis, is now going to be implemented in the NFL as the primary method for measuring the line to gain. Important to look at that wording right there. Measuring the line to gain. I still believe the chain crew is going to be the one spotting the ball, but I believe the Hawkeye technology will come in and go, yes, they got to the first down marker, or no, they didn't. I'm sure the technology is capable of this, but I am fascinated to see how will Hawkeye technology have X-ray vision to look through players when everyone's bunched up at the goal line and you can't tell if the ball got to the end zone, broke the plane. That's going to be a fun wrinkle to learn about, but a couple of important details there. Getting to the line to gain, not, hey, the runner was down at the 33.5-yard line, spot the ball here. That, I believe, is still going to be done by the chain gang. This stuff does take a little bit of extra reading, and there could be some fluidity to this, so things could change. But for now, that's how I'm interpreting this new rule. All right, before we sign off, as always, we like to end our videos with Name a Random Blank, and I thought we'd do Name a Random NFL Ref. So, I feel like everyone knows a couple. I've got one. Let's see if you can name one, and we'll see if we say the same referee. Count down from 3, 2, 1. Bill Vanovich. I don't think I pronounced the last name correctly, but he's done some Super Bowls. Bill Vanovich? It's not Vanovich. Anyway, Bill Itch. That's my random ref. So I'll go. I thought about going with Ed Hockley, but I felt like that'd be too mainstream. So go with Bill. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you all later. I should have done some homework on how to pronounce his last name, but Bill Vanovich? Vinovich. Bill Vinovich. I was not very far off. Just the wrong vowel. Vin, not V-A. I think he's done some soupies, too. Is there referee stats? He was the Super Bowl 2 years ago for the Chiefs-Niners game. Okay. Pretty good ref. Angel Hernandez. That's quite the name drop right there.
Not a ref,
Yeah.
but great name drop.
All right, over 100 people tuned in. I'm excited for Marvin Mims, though. With this new rule change, he should have more opportunities, like I said, to get the ball in his hands and bring kicks out and get the Broncos offense good starting field position. This is, I think, a very positive development for teams like Denver that have an explosive return man. Mailbag coming up in just a little bit, so get your questions in. Use hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. I put that link for you all in the comments and description of today's video. So, I don't know why I just said that. I was talking about the NFL draft hat. Use hashtag Broncos. I don't know. My brain's a little fried right now. I was up till 12:45 last night writing letters. Yeah, I like writing letters. I had an all-time record last night. You want to guess how many letters I cranked out?
Can I ask this question first? Who are you writing letters to?
Friends and family.
You actually get the pen and paper out.
I have my stationery, stamps.
Stop.
I have a seal. I stamp on the back too. I get wax and a candle. I'm not kidding. And then I pop that bad boy in the mail.
That's crazy. In 2025 too?
Everyone loves getting mail. When you check your mail and you get something that's not junk mail, tell me it's not a little bit exciting.
Okay, you do have me on that. I do like to see like a handwritten card that says my name on it. Yes, you're right.
So I don't write like friends and family weekly. Like I rotate around a little bit. And then I'll go like 2 weeks without writing anyone. You know what I mean? But last night I had the time and I just kind of got into a flow. I wrote 23 letters.
Would you ever write with like a quill?
I got a quill 2 weeks ago as a gift. I have not used it yet because it's kind of difficult. I got the ink and everything. Like you dip the ink in it, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
but
that's crazy.
I got to do it. Like I don't know. I like to write my letters sometimes in bed, and I don't want to have the ink, thing in my bed. So I got to get myself in a good table where I can sit down and write some letters. If anyone ever wants a letter, you just shoot me an email with your address, and I'll pop a letter in the mail for you. I said that a few weeks ago, and someone wrote me a letter, and so I wrote them back. Okay, enough about my stationary habits. Let's talk about some free agency content because Mike Kliss, who I think does a great job of covering the team, named 2 receivers that the Broncos could have some interest in. So I thought we'd take a time to talk about those 2 receivers. I got some questions coming in. Appreciate it. Danny, Folksy Prince, the Lord of Liberty. Love to see it. All right, here we go. What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome on into the Broncos Breakdown. Coming up on today's episode, I want to talk about 2 wide receivers that were loosely, I wouldn't even say connected to the team, but were brought up as a possible free agent target for the Broncos because Denver had some level of interest in maybe bringing in like a Cooper Kupp or maybe a Stephon Diggs. It's not exactly clear how high of interest they had, but neither one of those players came to the Broncos. And so with that, they might turn their attention to another free agent receiver. So Mike Kliss, who does a great job of covering the team for 9 News, he recently wrote this in an article. There are still 2 available receivers on the free agent market who could make sense for the Broncos, Keenan Allen and Elijah Moore. So I want to talk about these 2 receivers because as I mentioned, Denver, I wouldn't say struck out on Cooper Kupp or Stephon Diggs, but if they had interest in getting them, they were well north of any comfortable price range Denver was going to pay. Diggs making a little over $21 million a season for the next 3, Kupp making $15 million a season for the next 3. I said that Kupp was not going to come to the Broncos, and I predicted he would go to the Seahawks, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And now I'm going to stand here and predict Denver is not going to make a expensive wide receiver signing or acquisition. But if the price drops for someone, there may be a number where they are comfortable. And they didn't think that player would get down to that number. But now that they are there, okay, we have some interest. Because a month ago, we didn't really kick the tires because we just thought you'd cost 10 plus million and we didn't want to spend that. But hey, since you might be a little bit cheaper, let's give it a go here. So I'm not expecting a big splashy receiver signing, but as free agency continues to, move away from its original starting date, prices for players inevitably go down as money starts to dry up elsewhere, and that could bring a team kind of out of the dark into the light to go out and sign that player. So before we do a deep dive on Allen and more, we are trying to get to 34,000 subscribers before the start of the NFL draft. We need 127 of you watching who are not subscribed to do me a big favor, please. Go ahead and click that button. It is completely free. Let's start with our old AFC West foe, Keenan Allen. Former third-round pick by the Chargers back in 2013. By the way, quick Chargers fun fact. I didn't realize this. With Bosa leaving the Chargers to go to the Bills, there are no players on the Chargers roster now who played in San Diego. So, kind of a sad era for that. Anywho, last year, Allen played on the Bears. It was not a great season for Keenan. You can place some of that on the age factor, but he played very well the season prior to that. So, I'm not convinced that a few months in the offseason and his body really caught up to him. I think Keenan Allen's 2024 stats are a better reflection to how horrible the Bears coaching staff was. They went through multiple offensive play callers, and none of them seemed to have a great grasp on how to use Keenan Allen. Which, I get it. Allen's only been in the league for like 13 years. Don't you think you know what he's good at by now? But the Bears didn't. That's why they fired Shane Waldron, not even at the halfway mark of the season. But 2023, 100-plus grabs, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and a 13-game sample size. You may not get 17 games from Allen anymore, given that the last 4 years he has not gotten to that number. But if you can get 13 games and get 1,200 yards for, I don't know, maybe like $10-ish million, I can get behind that signing at that point. I've been very consistent on this channel that I do not feel that Denver has to go out and sign a big-name receiver. I don't think they have to make it a priority early in the draft unless someone they love falls to them, best player available, yada, yada, yada. I am more confident in this receiver room than I think most of Broncos country is. But I can even go and say, oh, Allen for cheap and what he did just 2 years ago, that seems like a pretty good investment. Does it not? And I'll expand more on that thought in just a second. But first things first, I do have to give a big shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Baseball season is here, so if you want to have some extra interest while watching maybe a Rockies game or with basketball season heating up, you can mix and match sports between baseball, hockey, and basketball. And all you've got to do with Prize Picks is select more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. It's that easy. Plus, you don't even have to go 3 for 3, 4 for 4, 5 for 5 to win money. You can go 3 for 4, 5 for 6, and still come away with some cash as well. So let me give you an example of what Prize Pick selections look like. You just take the more or less on players, and that's all. Sit back, relax, and watch the game. So take, the stress out of it maybe a little bit and have some fun while watching with Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So getting back to Keenan Allen and just the current state of Denver's receiver room, I, like I said, and put this on the record, am more comfortable with this receiver room than a lot of people are. If they don't make an addition to this room in free agency or in the first 2 rounds of the draft, I'd be okay with it. I think you can do some damage with the emergence of Devon Vele, Marvin Mims, and Troy Franklin, all in their first or second season a year ago. And then tack on a 1,000-yard campaign from Sutton in 2024 and 8 touchdowns. Yeah, I know this is not a room that's filled with fantasy football players from 3 years ago like Stephon Diggs or Cooper Kupp, but you know what? That's fine. I think this is an ascending group right here. And I don't know if I really want to take a 31-year-old off the street and take snaps away from a younger, thriving, growing player because Keenan Allen or Stephon Diggs or Cooper Kupp was good at one point. Like Allen I can get behind because I think he could actually fit a mold that is missing in this receiver room, which is, I wouldn't say a tight end because that's not Allen's position, but maybe adding an extra X receiver, right? Someone who can kind of play outside a little bit. And Allen is not someone who I expect to go on deep go routes. You got Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin for that. But why not someone who can complement a little bit, or not even just complement Courtland Sutton, but provide some depth in not quite an identical role, but that role that we saw Allen play for so many years in San Diego and then in LA. So I'd be on board, maybe like a 1-year, $10 million contract. Anything north of that, and no, even $10 million, I'm kind of like trying to convince myself to do it because I like the current receiver room, but at the end of the day, if I close my eyes and I see a notification from Adam Schefter that says the Broncos just signed Keenan Allen to a 1-year, $10 million contract, my reaction's not going to be, shit. It's going to be like, I like that. There we go. May not work out, but if it doesn't, Walton Penner Group's out $10 million. What do I care about their money? So do you feel like Denver needs to add another receiver? I could see them adding another receiver for like depth purposes, but not for large role purposes. Like somewhat similar to the Josh Reynolds signing of last year. So get in the comment section, give me a yes or give me a no if you feel like the Broncos need to add another receiver. The other name that was mentioned is Elijah Moore, who played last 2 seasons with the Cleveland Browns. He was a second-round pick in 2021 out of Ole Miss. You might remember him best from the Egg Bowl. He had a certain dog action against Mississippi State in the end zone. But he still is a young player. He just turned 25 years old. In his career, 200 grabs, 2,100 yards, and 9 touchdowns over the course of 4 seasons. I'd say the most disappointing thing for Moore is the lack of touchdowns. When the Browns traded for him, they did a 2nd and 3rd round pick swap with New York. And they did get some good production out of Moore, but not maybe as much as you would have hoped for, given what you gave up in a trade to acquire him. I mean, look at Elijah Moore over the past 4 seasons, his entire NFL career. Last 2 years, 100-plus targets, so he's got the ability to get open and the ball to find his way, but 3 touchdowns combined the last 2 seasons. You can blame some of that on the Browns and all the different starting quarterbacks they've had and the ups and downs of Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston, but at the end of the day, you'd like for a second-round pick to be someone that can elevate some quarterback issues, not be a victim of quarterback issues. As for Moore, here's the thing. I like Elijah Moore to a degree for Denver, but I wonder how his role would differ from Marvin Mims. Because even in Cleveland, I don't feel like they had a very good grasp on how to use him. There were times where the Browns were like, hey, let's stick him in the backfield. We'll make him like this scat back, right? This ultimate Swiss Army knife. We'll give him handoffs at times. And that really wasn't working. So they're like, all right, let's just play him like a true wide receiver. And that had more success. But there are shades to Moore's game that I somewhat see with Marvin Mims. Mims is faster. He's more of a speed gadget guy. They tried to do that with Moore, and that didn't work out. I don't think Elijah Moore is going to have a ton of success in the league if he is a traditional X boundary receiver who's out there to, box with DBs and win 50-50 balls down the sideline. That's probably not going to be his comfort zone. But I don't think he's a utility gadget guy, which Denver used Marvin Mims as for a good amount of time last season. So I feel like Moore can have success in the league. He's just got to go to the right place. And Sean Payton is a very good coach who's had a lot of success with receivers who were not early draft picks or big splash signings in free agency. So I could see Elijah Moore being viewed as trash by some teams because he didn't work well as a gadget guy in Cleveland, but as a great receiver by Sean Payton because he looks at him through a whole different lens of, oh, you're not bad. You were just misused in Cleveland. I've got the right buttons to press here and the secret sauce to get that second-round talent out of you. So how about a 1-year, $6 million contract? I think he's going to get around this. I doubt at this stage of the offseason he's going to find a 2 or 3 year contract. 1 year, $6 million. I'd be open to rolling the dice on him. He brings speed, and teams love speed, and they could use some more speed in that receiver room. Devon Vele and Cortland Sutton are not track stars. Mims and Troy Franklin have some good wheels on them. I'd be on board with finding a spot for Moore on this offense. I'd have faith in Sean Payton finding a spot for Elijah Moore in this offense. So to wrap up today's episode, let's name a random SEC school. With Elijah Moore playing at Ole Miss, let's do a random SEC school. Okay, I've got mine. 3, 2, 1, Oklahoma. If you thought, oh, he's going to avoid Texas and Oklahoma, you're an idiot. I got you. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate all of your loyalty and your viewership. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out, and I'll see everyone later. What SEC school were you thinking? Because everyone's like thinking one. They may not say it out loud, but in their head, they're like, I got mine.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I didn't want to say Vandy. I was not going to say any rivals of mine. I don't want to give them any.
No, I figured you wouldn't, but I also figured.
That'd be good logic.
Yeah, exactly.
But then what if I did?
Then someone's going to be like, oh, you're not a true Vols fan.
Oh, fuck. That's a good point. Good counter. We got a $5 super chat. Let's go. You know what? Let's save this super chat first for our mailbag. This can be our leadoff, right? This will be batting first. Matthew said Mississippi State. Danny, LSU. Did I name a random SEC school a few weeks ago? Oh, I think I might have. I'll be honest, it's a little difficult to remember name all the random blanks. I know I did name a random Big Ten, and maybe I did. I think I did because I think I said South Carolina. I forgot my own show. Coach Chris loved the show. Thank you, Coach. You're my favorite coach out there. Judson, let A.T. Perry cook. Danny, appreciate your question. Are we in a good spot, Moose, to get this mailbag underway, or do we need maybe 2 or 3 more questions?
Let's get 2 or 3 more questions in. Remember, hashtag Broncos.
So I see Coach Chris going, Amari Cooper, ? You could do Amari Cooper, ? Hashtag Broncos. And then we'll talk about Denver maybe signing Amari Cooper. Oh,
I apologize. I misled you. We need a lot more. We have a lot of questions from the same person. So we need like 5 or 6 other people to get in here and start using hashtag Broncos.
We got a signing, not for the Broncos. Calais Campbell, 1-year contract to go back to the Arizona Cardinals, where he was drafted out of, where did Calais Campbell play college football? Oh, why am I blanking? 2008 second-round draft pick. I want to say it was a West Coast school. No, I completely lied. Miami. Why would I think West Coast? What an idiot. Idiot sandwich. It's got a 1-year, $5.5 million contract. So the Cardinals bring Calais Campbell back home, where he started his NFL career. I'm guessing he probably lives in Arizona still, and he's like, I'm kind of done traveling around. If Arizona will take me, I'll come back and play another season. He's almost 40, by the way.
Mr. Peterson, I'm going to ask you to start calling out some people because we do need more comments.
I saw we got questions from Danny, from Folksy Prince, from Coach Chris. We got Kiko right now. Richie Baez, I want you to get a question in. And then we have the super chat as well. Bo Lever, what was the rule change? Touchbacks now go out to the 35-yard line, incentivizing teams to kick them into the landing zone more and create more returns, thus Great news for Marvin Mims because he's going to get more opportunities to take kicks back. Okay. Lord of Liberty got a question in. I want to see a question come in from Coach Chris Campbell 2 years ago for Atlanta had 6.5 sacks. Not too shabby for his stage of his career. Kenneth Miller, let's go Broncos. Richie Baez getting a question, and thank you guys. Appreciate it. Okay. If you have a question come to your mind at the last moment, super chat, and we guarantee it gets on screen. You skip the line, or just go hashtag Broncos, and Moose picks his favorite questions. Orange Tennis getting a question in. Love it.
Shout out to our guy, Danny Caudle. He's got like 9
Danny's
questions in.
Danny's the best. All right. You want to change the bottom part right there? And then we are ready to roll. 100 people tuned in right now. Appreciate all of you guys for watching our live show. All right. I am ready when you are. Before we start today's mailbag, quick reminder, hit that like button down below today and every time you tune into the Broncos Breakdown to help support the channel. Now, let's start unpacking some of the questions you guys had for me during our live show, which airs every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Starting with a super chat from iMoneyMitch15. What do you think about the Broncos getting a running back and defensive line in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft, and after that getting Tyler Lockett for cheap? I like this plan a lot. If I had to toss out 2 names, I'll go like running back in round 1 and then running back in round 2. If they go running back in round 1, Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina is the player I would keep an eye on. And then defensive tackle in round 2, Alfred Collins out of Texas. He's like a 3 technique, but I think he can be great at stuffing the run. May not have a great amount of pass rush upside, but I think Nick Bonitto's like pretty good at that, so you should be okay. And then if you go defensive line in round 1, I would suggest one of 2 names. Personal preference, Walter Nolan. Broncos Breakdown, educated guess, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Both around 300 pounds, both tremendous pass rush upside. And then running back in round 2, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. I think he could be not the next Alvin Kamara, but there are some similarities between Kamara and Henderson. Both were backs that were in a 2 running back system in college, and that's why they never got a ton of attention in the pre-draft process. And then once they became the single focus of a team, we saw what happened with Kamara. So those are some names and combinations to watch for. As for Tyler Lockett, I think he's just kind of cooked. I don't think it'd be what you're picturing. Sure, you get him for cheap. What's the downside? You know, it takes a roster spot away from a younger player. He takes snaps away from a younger player. But if he's not good, then he's likely just not going to have a spot on the roster much, very deep into the season. Coach Chris with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Coach. No question, more of a statement. Love this program. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And no, I don't work for Chat Sports. That last part is true. So I really appreciate the honesty and the 5-star review, Coach. Thank you for supporting the channel. Shout out to you, my man. Orange Tennis. Will there be any changes to the onside kick rule? So the NFL the NFL rolled out 5 new rule changes from the owners' meeting on Tuesday when we're filming this. And one of those was touchbacks now go out to the 35-yard line, whereas last year they went out to the 30-yard line. That's going to incentivize teams to kick it more into the landing zone and create more kick returns. Great for Marvin Mims. No, there will be no changes to the onside kick rule for now. Doesn't mean that things can't change at a future date, but as of this moment, no. All-time name, this next one. Sutton, my face. How likely is it that we extend Courtland Sutton, Nick Bonitto, and Zach Allen, hoping we keep all 3? I think the likelihood of all 3 getting extended before the season begins, very, very low. I could see Courtland Sutton getting a 2-year extension worth around $20 million. I could see that happening sometime in August. I could see Zach Allen getting a contract extension a little bit quicker because he's younger and very important to this defense. I could see Benito getting an extension in November. I don't think Benito, after 3 years, is going to get the Pat Surtain level of priority of, oh, we're going to get this done now. I think that's a mid-season extension. So timeline-wise, I would predict Allen, Sutton, Benito. All three, I'd say like a 75% chance just because it's like a parlay. One fails and the whole thing goes down the drain. If one were to fail, it would be Courtland Sutton. Sutton on my face, thank you. Next question coming in. Kiko Del Rio. Any relation to Jack Del Rio? Do you think this team got better this offseason or stayed the same? It's a fair question. Better. Let's talk about Denver's weaknesses. And let's root it back to the playoff game, because that was the last thing we saw from them. I saw a defense not be able to really go for 4 quarters. How do they address that? Well, they brought in an all-pro safety in Talanoa Hufanga and a linebacker that the Niners wanted back so badly, they flew to his private residence in Dallas, Texas, to persuade him at the 11th hour and were unsuccessful. That's how much Dre Greenlaw, your new starting middle linebacker, meant to his old team. So the defense improved. The offense. They added Evan Ingram. Can we all agree he is a vast improvement from what you had before? Have you improved at running back? No. Good news is, I don't think you were going to improve in free agency. It's not a very good free agency crop of backs. Great news is, it is a great crop of backs in the draft. So that is the last piece of the puzzle that has to be filled, and I expect it to be filled in the first 2 rounds of the draft. General Payton, is Kenneth Walker available for a trade? I wouldn't even say there's been like trade rumors for Kenneth Walker. Maybe like a step below it. Trade buzz, trade chatter between the Seahawks and the Raiders for Pete Carroll to get Kenneth Walker to his new team in Las Vegas. I could see a world where Seattle moves on from Walker. Last year, he missed some time, so that's going to factor in a little bit. He only has 1 year left on his contract, so if Seattle does not envision paying him and they want to get a pick and they're confident in Zach Charbonnet, they could look at it as, hey, Charbonnet, and we reset the rookie contract at the running back spot and draft someone this year, and we're ready to roll, and we don't have to pay Walker next offseason or let him go in free agency and get very little for him, maybe a comp pick. So I know everyone's looking for a running back. I would urge you, General, to be patient and wait for the draft. But let me know if you would trade for Kenneth Walker. If I find out tomorrow Denver trades for him, I won't be too upset if I know what they gave up for him. But I'm more team wait for the draft. Matthew Frey, Cam Scadaboo. If you want him in round 4, sure. I don't think he goes in the first 2 days of the draft. I think teams are going to look at him as a... This will sound like an insult, like a Peyton Hillis light. I don't think he's as fast as Hillis. I'm basically just thinking of like white running backs who are kind of bowling balls. And there's really a short list of examples here. So I don't believe he's going to be a first, second, or third round pick. I'd say it's more likely he goes round 5 than round 3. And in round 5, I'm not opposed to Denver adding 2 backs in the draft. I think this running back room should be on thin ice. Everyone in it. So you drafted someone, I wouldn't say similar in Audric Estime, but that's another big kind of bruising back, not a speedster. So you may not be diversifying your running back portfolio super well. Richie Baez. Do you think the Broncos get a center in the first 3 rounds of the draft? No. It's not a very good center draft. So don't reach on one. If you want a center, wait until day 3. You found Luke Wattenberg in round 5, and I'd be okay with trying again somewhere in that territory. If there was a ton of great centers in this draft, then yeah, sure, that's kind of like the last missing piece of the offensive line. But you're probably not going to actually improve that position with a center in round 3. So you could improve a different position in round 3. I'd rather go that route. Danny, you're on screen. More likely scenario, Denver trades up or Denver trades back? I'm going to say Denver trades up. The reason being is I don't think you're going to find a lot of takers for pick number 20. It's not a very I don't want to say good or great draft class. It's just not a star-studded draft class. Like, you got the draft classes of like Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson, Jerry Jeudy. Like, there's not that type of firepower in this class. So I don't think teams are going to be giving up more than what they should for the 20th overall pick. Whereas I could see Denver jumping up 5, 6, 7 spots if they really want one of Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, or Ashton Genty. And for some reason, one of those guys is still there at 14 or 15, which I could see Loveland still being there, and that would not be a stretch in my eyes. Dakota, which Broncos game are you guys most excited for this season? Okay, let's look at the Broncos. Not schedule, but opponents. Oh, I already know the answer. It's Giants. Russell Wilson and the Giants come to town. I'm going to predict right now that's week 1. Last year, think about it. 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Oh, no, was it 3 years ago? Time flies. 3 years ago, Hackett and Russ opened up the season in Seattle, right? Russell Wilson goes back to the Seahawks. Then last year, the NFL schedule makers had Steelers-Broncos week 2 with everyone expecting Russell Wilson to start. I think early on, they want to save some of those marquee matchups, the Chiefs-Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles-Bills, those kind of like heavyweight clashes for weeks 10 and beyond to make sure they don't bust their load early on. And so they could have some of the more drama-filled matchups of like the tabloid, revenge game early in the season. So shoot my shot right now, Dakota. Giants, Broncos, for the second time in 5 years, open up the season together, this time in Denver. All right, before we move on to the other questions on today's mailbag, make sure you check out our friends over at Fanatics. We have an awesome deal going on for this Broncos draft hat. Just go to chatsports.com/DEN draft. I put that link for you all because I'm sure you already forgot it in the comments and description of today's video. So check them out if you want to get a Broncos draft hat before the NFL draft kicks off. We have some more questions to get to on today's mailbag, so don't go anywhere. We got some super chats I see as well. Don't worry. Just technical issue here. Sorry for the delay. Next question coming in from the Lord of Liberty. Should Denver go defensive line and wait until round 2 for a running back? George Payton did say that they are very confident in finding it back in rounds 2 through 6. Think about it this way. I kind of give the example of like a fantasy football draft. What do you feel like is a better combination? A quarterback in round 5 and a running back in round 10? Or a running back in round 5 and a quarterback in round 10? Personally, I think the latter. I think you get more points out of running back and quarterback in that order than quarterback and running back. Now, I bring this up because what if Denver looks at the draft board and goes, man, the running backs that are going to be there in round 2 tower over the defensive linemen that will be there in round 2. So what's best for the team might be defensive tackle in round 1 and then slight drop off with running back in round 2 versus running back in round 1 and then bigger drop off in defensive tackle in round 2. Personally, I'd rather go get your number 1 back. I'd rather not mess around. If your number 1 back happens to be someone you think is going to be there in round 2, then by all means, wait and draft him then. But if you like Hampton or Johnson a ton, I think running back is a big enough need for this team where maybe it's not the greatest 1-2 combination, but that's how important the running back position is to me for Bo Nix in year 2. Aiden, How would you feel about a trade down out of the first round and drafting somebody like Caleb Johnson or one of the Ohio State running backs in the early second while picking up extra draft picks? I would not be too opposed to trading back from number 20. Every NFL fan says, ooh, I'd like to trade down because more picks is usually more fun. You can go back and look at some notable trades of like trade down when you get a bunch of picks. Like, for example, the Titans and Rams, when the Rams traded up to get Jared Goff, all the picks the Titans got, most of them turned into nothing. So quality is actually more important than we give it credit for in the draft. But Caleb Johnson is my second back in this draft after Ashton Genty. So if you're telling me more picks and they get Johnson, yeah, where do I sign? We got some more Super Chats and questions coming in here. Sorry about the slight delay. We'll get the Super Chats on screen in just a moment. Okay. There it is. Super Chat coming in from Sutton. My face making Coach Chris energy with another 20 Broncos, baby. Sutton, thank you very much. Appreciate your support of the channel. Everyone spam Sutton in the chat. And then we got another Super Chat coming in from Coach Chris, and we can end on this one here. Matching Sutton, my face. That name is hilarious. Go Broncos. Let's keep the lights on in this place. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for going above and beyond to support the channel with your generosity. That's going to do it for us on today's mailbag. If I did not get to your question, I'm sorry. You can feel free to leave it in the comment section, or you can come back next week for our live show Tuesday afternoon. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. We also got one from Kenneth Bennett. We'll get that on screen as well. Kenneth didn't have a question in it, so didn't really feel mailbag appropriate, but still want to get you on screen for your support of the channel. Kenneth Bennett with a $10 Super Chat. Shout out to you, Kenneth. Thank you guys so much. Kenneth, Sutton, Coach Chris, and iMoney Mitch for support of the channel with your donations. It really does help grow the channel and get me more studio space to get you guys more content, which maybe you've noticed, maybe not, but the last, say, 6 weeks, I think the last 6-week time span might be the most content I've ever published on the channel in any 6-week time span. The draft 6-week span would definitely rival it, but this is up there for sure. I got to do some deep dive on the analytics for you all here. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's live show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe to the channel so that way you can see more of our content, and I'll be sure to see you all later.